After a year of canceling trips and staying at home, travel is slowly but surely coming back. People are traveling again and people are booking tickets again. But travel has changed in the last year. So I'm going to show you exactly what it's like inside airports, on airplanes. Tag along.
As you prepare for your trip, you won't necessarily need a COVID-19 test or proof of vaccination just because you're getting on a plane. It depends on where you're going. Many countries, and even some states like Hawaii, require a negative COVID-19 test for entry. And if you're leaving the country, you still may need a negative test to board your flight home. But these rules constantly change, so double and triple check before you leave.
This time last year, airports were absolute ghost towns. But that has started to change. They're starting to fill up again. But it really depends on which day you fly. Want to make sure you're not battling through crowds and long lines? Do what I did. Fly on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Saturday. Those are the least busy days that you'll find in airports and on airplanes. And do your best to avoid Sundays, Mondays, and Fridays. Masks are still required in airports and on airplanes. And even as millions more Americans get vaccinated every day, that's unlikely to change anytime soon.
Checking a bag is so hot right now. Business travelers are still at home and vacationers are out. That means almost everyone is checking a bag, so you may run into some long lines when dropping off your luggage. If you can, it's worth trying to pack in a carry-on bag so you can skip it.
But the actual process of checking a bag hasn't changed much at all. Here we go.
Just check in for your flight at home or at the airport, get your baggage tag and slip it on, then drop your bag off. For me, it took just a few minutes, but others won't be so lucky. Then it's time for everyone's least favorite part of the airport, getting through security. As always, just how long or short your lines are, it's going to depend pretty heavily on when you're traveling. But services like TSA PreCheck and Clear are worth their weight in gold if you're worried about waiting. I've always gotten through in just minutes during the pandemic, and this trip was no different. The biggest change at security is a good one. Rather than hand over your ID and boarding pass and show your face, many airports now allow you to simply stick your ID in a reader, get it back, and go on your way. Most, but not all, restaurants and convenience stores are open inside airports these days, so you shouldn't struggle to get a bite, grab a coffee, or buy some drinks and snacks before your flight. But many have limited hours, so if you're flying late, you may be out of luck. And if you want to shop, your options are probably pretty limited. If you've got the right credit card or top airline status, you can still get into an airport lounge, or at least some of them. While many airline lounges across the country are back open, some still remain closed after more than a year. Find an open one? Just what you'll get inside may vary. After emptying out, lounges are filling up again. Luckily, most do a pretty good job keeping people spaced out inside. Many airlines have cut back on a lot of their food, so it may still be mostly pre-packaged snacks like in this Delta Sky Club. But you can almost always count on an open bar. Others, like Amex Centurion lounges, are nearly back to normal, with great meals and drinks for free. Before long, it's time to head to the gate. While airports are definitely getting busier, you still shouldn't have a hard time finding an empty space nearby to sit while waiting to board. Many gates aren't being used these days.
Getting through the airport doesn't really matter which airline you're flying with. But so much of the travel experience does depend on what you're flying. From boarding to onboard service to blocking middle seats, every airline has responded to the pandemic in different ways, and it all starts at boarding.
To show you just how different traveling can be based on what airline you're flying with, I flew 2 different carriers, United out to New York City and Delta back to Minneapolis. Throughout the pandemic, some airlines began boarding planes from back to front. United did that for a year, but it's back to boarding planes in zones now. You may find social distancing markers in the queue and on the jet bridge, but people still tend to get bunched up. Delta is still boarding planes from back to front. Other airlines like American and JetBlue are boarding planes as normal. Hoping for an empty flight? I've got bad news. Those days from early in the pandemic are over. These days, you should pretty much assume your flight is going to be nearly, if not completely full. My flights certainly were. Throughout the pandemic, some airlines blocked middle seats to give passengers more space on board. One by one, they've all gone back to filling planes to capacity. Delta was the final holdout, but even they started filling middle seats as of May 1st, 2021. Wondering if your fellow flyers will be good about wearing a mask? It varies by flight and who you're flying with, of course. Airlines have banned thousands of passengers who refused to mask up in the last year. But those incidents are few and far between. And in my experience, airlines, including Delta and United, constantly remind passengers to keep their masks on.
Once again, federal law requires everyone, with the exception of children younger than 2, to wear a mask properly over their nose and mouth at all times throughout the flight, including during boarding and deplaning. Refusing to wear a mask is now a violation of federal law and may result in removal from the aircraft, loss of your travel privileges on future United Airlines flights, and/or penalties and fines under federal law.
When the pandemic first hit, many airlines stopped their usual drink cart routine and stopped serving alcohol altogether. But in-flight service is coming back. Still, what you get is going to vary by your airline and how long your flight is. My United Express flight offered a choice of drink, including coffee, plus a small bag with water and snacks. After serving only those same snack bags for a year, Delta brought back more drink and snack options as of mid-April, including buy-on-board drinks, like these tasty canned cocktails. But no matter who you're flying with, don't expect to see your flight attendants too much, aside from handing out drinks and collecting garbage. Despite their best efforts at social distancing, getting off the plane still tends to be a pretty disorderly affair. United in particular has done a lot, calling out row by row to sit up and deplane. But in my experience, it's still a mad dash to get off. If you checked a bag, nothing has really changed when it comes time to pick it up, but you should expect crowds at the baggage carousel. That's the beauty of packing in a carry-on. You can walk off the plane and head home.
All right, back at home. Look, there's no question that travel has changed in the last year. Believe it or not, though, a lot of aspects of the flying experience are pretty much back to normal, or at least pretty close to it. But that doesn't mean that your first trip, whether it's next month or sometime next year, is going to feel normal. It's definitely going to be a strange experience for a while as you adjust to, flying during and after the pandemic.
If you have any questions about flying, drop them in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, if you want more help to spend less and travel more, make sure to head to thriftytraveler.com. Cheers to cheap flights.